Welcome. So, the title of my performance is Glimpses into Hidden Regions of Our Truest Self. And the purpose of the entire performance is to show you a few glimpses into my own hidden regions so that you can celebrate yours. And keep in mind that there are infinite possible realms and regions in all of us. So yours aren't going to look like mine. You know, they're going to look like yours because there really is no limit to the inner region of the self. Why would we want to do this in the state of the world as it is now? And that's because I think that a lot of the things that are hidden away in these regions are the antidote to the horrors of the world right now. I think they're useful. So after the performance, Marge is going to be by the door there, and she has a handout for you that has on it everything that I plan to do in my performance, but a lot of times I just bag my plan, so it might be useless. But a lot of times afterwards, people are like, what was that quote from Dante that you recited? And so it's all printed out. And also it's information for how to get in touch with me, because I really want to hear from you. Because hopefully afterwards, you know, it could be a week later or months later, you're going to go, oh my God! I thought she was just crazy, but I have that hidden region in myself! So then you would get in touch with me. You know? Share that. You know, everyone said to me, like, I hope you're going to do some of your, like, standards. So I'm going to do my standard opening, which is a fake Bellini opera. There are all these hidden regions of, like, you know, when you're little, like my grandchildren, after you tuck them in bed, you listen at the door, they're all singing, you know, today I got a brownie, you know, and so I feel that, you know, there are hidden regions that involve, like, spontaneous operas, and I do like 30 or 40 a day of those, and then just, like, you know, why talk in the same old languages all the time? Like, why not just talk in a non-existent language? Iba, condifla, gorn, hibba, dong, you know? It's funny when I talk to my grandchildren, they're my test group, my test audience, you know, because I trust them, they're still pure. They're all under 6. And so, you know, if I speak to them in a non-existent language, like, they just love it. You know, so I know I'm on the right track when I do that. But, you know, when I sing a fake Bellini opera, it kind of reminds me of a real Bellini opera, my favorite one, which is Norma. Yeah. This is one of your faves too, right? Yeah. So, in the opera Norma, it's really cool because there's this hideously illicit love triangle. It's very, very naughty. And in my understanding of the opera, the central theme is, it says, perché tu tremi? For whom do you tremble? That's a good question. You know, if you're not trembling, like if you're not like shaking with something, just go to sleep, you know what I mean? Why bother? Why wake up if you're not going to tremble? You know, that's how I feel. So anyway, she reminds me, Norma, she's trembling throughout the whole thing. And I was thinking, you know, what could I share with you? The thing I tremble in delight the most about is my grandchildren. And one of the things that makes me just shake with delight is, like, when they ask me to tell them a story about Babalinka. And Babalinka is this fictional character that I made up. And Babalinka you know, I made her up like 6 years ago when my first grandchild was born, and bobolink is so real to them now that Holly, who's 6, told me that she was telling some of the friends in first grade about bobolink, like she was a real person, you know? And so I start trembling, and they're like, tell us a story, and put bobolink in there, and then Holly's, you know, 6, and she's like, and could you please put in like a beautiful and brave princess who looks just like me, you know, and then the 3 little boys who are like 5, 3, and 1, they're like, and could we have like some fierce like Tyrannosaurus Rexes and some zombies and like a killer whale, you know. So I'm like, no problem. You know? And so I start telling a story, and usually they're like, could you do it as an opera, please? You know? So it's like, to Nana's house. Anyway, nourishing trembling. Yeah, nourishing trembling. Wow. I don't know. That seems like a worthy thing to do. You know, last time I was here, I was performing for the open mic, and I did an ostrich mating call. It was kind of like this. And you know what happened? Sorry. I didn't tell you this, Gabrielle, but 2 or 3 ostriches broke through the door. They actually came through. By the way, did I say that you're sworn to secrecy? Nothing that I do in this room leaves this room. Because, you know, it may be hard for you to believe, but like, my father was like a really famous Presbyterian theologian. I actually had a job for 32 years at a really well-respected prep school. Yeah. I actually went to Yale Divinity School. Anyway, and I'm the author of this like prize-winning novel. And, oh my God. Anyway, I have to believe what Shaw said. You know, 100 years, George Bernard Shaw, crazy, wild Irish playwright. He said, everything truly sacred is rich in comedy. You know, I have to believe that because otherwise my life is totally foolish. I've been noticing how much stuff is in the hidden region of the memory. You know, we have all this stuff that goes in our memory our whole life, things we memorize, songs that were sung to us as children, you know, and all this stuff is in the memory. And I remember that Camus said this thing, that nothing is ever irrevocably lost. Like, ponder that. Nothing is ever irrevocably lost. Everything that's in your memory you could actually retrieve. And since I've retired, all these things are coming back to me that I learned so long ago. Like, I was in the 7th grade Latin class, and I had to memorize this passage of Virgil's Aeneid. O soci e neque negnari sumus ante malorum, O passi graviora dabitus hocoque finem. You know, it just popped back into my mind. You know, it's like, I don't know why, but then I thought about it, you know, nothing's an accident. And I thought, you know, you probably remember this, but it comes from a scene where Aeneas is talking to his friends, his fellow warriors, and they're really discouraged and they're losing this battle and everything. And so he says to them, oh, friends, we've been through worse than this, you know? We've been through harder times, and don't get discouraged because God will pull us through this too. And then I thought, yeah, you know, this is like a message for today. So no wonder it popped into my mind. But you want to travel, just imagine that Camus was right, that everything is possible to retrieve. it's just so shocking. But sometimes if I start getting too serious, like right now, I like to tap into the realm that my grandchildren are so good at nourishing, which is kind of the realm of silliness. And Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't fuzzy. Was he? And then my mind tries to get all rational. I was like, well, was he fuzzy? Was he fuzzy? And then, shut up, mind! You know, it's like, how much wood can a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck would chuck wood? A woodchuck would chuck all the wood he could chuck if I would. Yeah. Whew. Makes you feel better than you speak for a minute in a non-existent language. And then maybe do some animal noise. It's like, and I feel better now. Last Thursday, something popped out of the hidden region in my memories was the entire Wasteland. When it came out in pieces, it actually took over 2 hours to recite. I memorized it 46 years ago when I had this really boring job as a secretary, and there was no work to do, and I had to look really busy, you know. So I just was memorizing the Wasteland. I don't know what my boss thought I was doing. Like, there was no work, and so I memorized the Wasteland, and it came back to me, and I was thinking, wow. Yeah, we're living in the Wasteland. You know, I know he wrote this 100 years ago, 1922, but like, if this ain't the Wasteland, I don't know what is. It starts out with the burial of the dead. Yeah, watch the news. Yeah. The burial of the dead? Hello, welcome to my world. April is the cruelest month. Breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, filling dead roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth with forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dry tubers. Summer surprised us, coming over the storm dancing with a shower of rain. We stopped in the colonnade and went on in the sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee and talked for an hour. I am no Russian! I come from Lithuania, pure German! And when we were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousins, he took me out on a sled. And I was frightened. He said, Marie, hold on tight. And down we went. In the mountains, there you feel free. I read much of the night and go south in the winter. But you know, we're living in the Wasteland, right? But look how beautifully this cup is holding the water. Like, I'm so grateful to it. Like, what if this cup was not holding the water for me? Would the water just be like pouring over my head when I drink? Thank you. Oh my God, look at how my fingers are like holding the cup. What if I didn't have fingers? Holding the cup, holding the water. Gratitude is possible even in the Wasteland, don't you know what I mean? Thank you, fingers. You know, just kiss your own fingers if you want. You know, feel free. Like, it's kind of a miracle, actually. You know, wait a minute. I gotta get my journal out here. Remind me of something Einstein said about miracles. I never go anywhere without my journal. I started a journal when I was in first grade. You don't just get words in your journal, do you? Anyway. Yeah, I was reading something about, you know, Einstein was writing about relativity or something like that. Oh God, I must have cut off some of my hair. Yeah. Would you like some of my hair? Where is that Einstein quote? Yeah, I love when the pages are just like, only have like four words on them. You know, it's like, words are so overrated. I said the writer! So, anyway, somewhere in here. Oh, this is really nice. It's always good to have a little pouch hanging down from your journal with some like seaweed in it. You know, just want to nibble it. Get hungry or like Where is that Einstein? Oh, I love this page. It says run for your life, and then there's just a big piece of wood saying run! If you want to get into some hidden regions of like your truest self, like keep a journal and then read it. Here's the Einstein quote. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. Yeah, I'm going to take the latter one, because if we really acted as if everything was a miracle, I mean, thank you, Einstein! You little rapscallion! God, I love him! One of the things I remembered was all four parts of Mendelssohn's Elijah. It's popped into my lift thine eyes on. So you can sing along. If I start getting too spiritual, it just makes me kind of want to make the sound of like a man and farting, like, or like, lift thine eyes up, or like, to think about little mice falling in love and trembling with delight and have like, thinking of mice that make me kind of hungry. What if Gabrielle left me any food on there? She said she would, did you? I love you! My favorite SpaghettiOs! Oh my God! Gabrielle really lives up to her name. She's an angel. Wow. Dang it, can you hold this one? Oh my God, they're just the way I love them! They're room temperature! Does anyone else want some? Do you want to just pass it or maybe put it on the back table? Like, just get up if you want some and I'll go and help yourself. Yeah. Uh-oh. I feel a Yeats poem coming on. Turning and turning in the widening gyre. The falcon cannot hear the SpaghettiO. Yeats said that the eating SpaghettiOs during this. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon. You can join me if you know this one. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-doomed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. Does this sound familiar? Yeah. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. And whoa! I'm getting vertigo. Thanks, Yeats! Anyway, when I find that my center cannot hold, and mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, I like to start thinking about grammar rules. They really calm me down. And I know for you, probably grammar rules are in a far, far, far hidden region of yourself. But, I taught grammar for 32 years, 6 days a week, because at my prep school classes on Saturday. So, the great thing about grammar rules in a world of chaos is that they're predictable. They're always the same. The first grammar rules were written in Sanskrit in the 8th century BC. I might have made that up. But it was a long time ago. Okay. And the thing about grammar rules is like an adjective always only pronoun. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter who's on the Supreme Court. The adjective still modifies. Only a noun or pronoun. Only. It's so comforting. Sometimes, when I was teaching grammar for the 5 billionth time, I would do kind of an off-Broadway theater thing to keep myself awake, and I would act out the tragic death of an adjective who cannot find a noun or pronoun to modify it. And it would kind of go something like this. Pretend there's no nouns or pronouns in the entire room. I'm the adjective. I walk in. Hi. Hi, I'm an adjective. You lucky nouns are going to get modified. I'm here to modify. I can make you anything you want. I can make you rich, handsome, whatever. So, who's the first noun to come up? Pronouns. Come on, you can be. I can modify. I can tell you anything you want to be. Adjective, I can modify. No nouns. Okay, I'm short of breath. Okay, I'll take the pronoun. I'll take a pronoun. Is there a pronoun that I can modify? It's, you know, and it's Erzog's noun, but it's a wannabe noun, but I'll take it if I have to. Any pronouns? No pronouns? What? Modify you? You're a conjunction! I can't modify you! You know, so, of course, it dies, you know. I'm going to try not to cry here, although I think it's really sad. You know, I thought a lot about death the last few weeks because I was in the hospital a few times and I was like using my wild imagination to picture like dying. You know, which is maybe not the best use of a wild imagination, but you know, I was doing it. And then I was okay. And luckily I was at my dear friend Pete and Maureen's house, and they often save me from myself. And so Pete was like, would you like to see a video of Celtic monsters? And so he plays this great video of Celtic monsters. And this really helped me fear death less. Because in that video, it said, you know you're going to die when you hear the pigs under your bed begin to squeal. And I figured, you know, until I hear those pigs squeal, thanks, Pete and Maureen, saved my life once again. Love them. Sometimes when I think about death a lot, I just want to do as I monks chant, though. We use such a small part of our voice, you know, that we talk like in this range here. You know, we don't talk high or low or anything, and you know, I think that's why there's this song that I made up when my first grandchild was just an infant, and she was wearing this polka dot bib, and the song has only like a few words. It's like polka dot bib, how I love your polka dot bib. That's the whole lyrics of the song. But it never failed. Now, almost 7 years later, I cannot visit them without 50 or 60 requests for the polka dot bib. I can't. I have, sometimes I even sing this in my sleep. And it's because it has a range of sounds. It goes like this. Very hidden for some of us, is the comfort of Poetic Meter. take iambic tetrameter, you know, for example. And iamb, which you may have hidden far away, and iamb is like a short beat and then a heavy beat, like a heartbeat. And tetra just means 4. So it just means 4 heavy beats per line. Like for example, you know when you're going into Dante's Inferno, you know, and there's that gate that you enter, there's that famous stuff written above the gate. You probably remember that. You know, join in with me. That's an iambic tetrameter. You know, I remember it because I learned it in like 10th grade Italian or whatever, and which was probably like 80 years ago. But it's okay, and don't you poets get upset and say like, Debbie, those were not all iambs. I heard a dactyl. There was a anapest in there. Okay, iambic tetrameter just means that they're mostly iambs. Per me si va nell'ecita dolente, per me si va nell'eterno dolore, per me si va tra la perduta gente. Those are some of the most horrifying words that were ever written. Through me one enters the city of woe, through me one enters into eternal sorrow, through me one enters into the lost people. And yet the beauty of that rhythm of iambic tetrameter kind of mitigates the horror of the words. It's almost as if the words were something that you could say to like your little baby in its crib, like, per me si va nell'ecita dolente, cuckoo gaga. And that same iambic tetrameter that Dante used in Italy in 1320, I'm just making these dates up, in 1320, 600 years later, Robert Frost used the same iambic tetrameter in his like poem, his famous, join in with this, you know. Woo! 2 roads that merge in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not pick them both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, and here and bent to the underground, and took the other and just the thread, and having perhaps the time because it was grassy and wanted wet. As for that, the passing there and warm them really about the same. So, they have the same rhythm centuries later. Am I the only one that finds this like calming? And it does make me tremble really to think about it. But here we have 2 beautiful roads in a yellow wood. So beautiful, so beautiful. And the horror of Dante's Inferno when they share iambic tetrameter. Like how beautiful is that? Reminds me of 2 of my friends I brought to show you. One of them is the Earth Mother, the Earth Goddess. For the beauty of the earth, for the beauty, you know, that kind of thing. And she's like, she nourishes everything, and then our arch rival, the Aztec Jet Whistle. The Aztecs used to gather in battle, and they all had these whistles, and they would all blow them at once to like horrify the enemy. So these 2 are always like, I like to do little puppet shows with them because they're always like fighting each other, and you know, and she's like trying to sing like, for the beauty of, oh I love the earth, it's so wonderful, and he's like, everyone loves death. Ridiculous, you know. By the way, can I just quote one of little Debbie's favorite poems, Wasteland? Remember part 4, Debbie? Actually, I do. Well, let me just recite part 4. For the, shut up. For the beauty of the earth is our mother. Shut up! Part 4 of the Wasteland. Death by water. Phoebus, the Phoenician, a fortnight dead, forgot the cry of gulls and the deep sea swell. He did. Oh no, the deep sea swell, I forgot. Yes. Currents undersea picked his bones. Oh, the horror. As he rose and fell, he passed the stages of his age and youth, entering the whirlpool. Gentile or Jew? Oh, you who turned the wheel and looked to windward, consider Phoebus, who was once handsome and tall as you. Oh, that's a terrible poem. I love the Wasteland. Thanks, Debbie, for reminding me. But the earth is our mother. We will take care of her. What about the fields of flowing wheat? What about the mudslides that cover them over? What about the ocean full of rich seafood? What about the floods of the ocean and the hurricanes and the tsunamis? What about mothers nourishing children? What about children dying of starvation? What about the tall, majestic mountains? What about the erupting volcanoes? The earth is our mother. Death is the ruler of all. Tweet, 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 tweet. Caw, caw, caw. You know, this reminds me of a passage in my novel. I brought a copy of it. Yeah, this is available in the library. And, you know, last I checked, you can get it on Amazon for like 5 cents. Anyway, I published it like in 1992. I can't believe it's still in print. Like, there must be like 3 people reading it. But yeah, so it's called Eve's Longing, the infinite possibility in all things. And it's one of my favorite passages I've written about birds. And it's great because I created Eve. She's basically me. Like, please don't tell my students because she's pretty naughty. But the parts that are really naughty, I still won't. That part's not me. That part's fictional. But anyway, so I need to get my glasses here. Maybe I can read it. Okay. Eve opens her eyes and sits up in bed, clutching the bed sheets up around her neck with one hand, while she leans over and opens the window with the other hand, and she grabs the birds one by one from the window ledge and stuffs them into the wide-mouthed jar on her bedside table, pounding them down with the eraser end of a pencil. Get in there, you little brats, she snaps at them as she jabs at the round heads with her pencil and packs them down tightly while still clutching the bed sheets up around her neck. But by the time she's filled the jar to the brim, she's out of breath. She manages to screw the metal lid on tight, pounds it down with her fist so they can't get out, and then she leans back and takes a deep breath, watching them trying to move around within the confines of the glass jar. They're squirming around trying to breathe, but Eve has figured out. She kind of overthinks things, but she's figured out that she has packed them so tightly that they're now limited to 2 possibilities. 1, they can move and risk injuring one another, or 2, they cannot move. She herself was reduced to the same 2 possibilities a week ago and chose to remain motionless in bed. The birds, on the other hand, decide to move, and therefore, the wing of one of them pierces a hole in the stomach of the other, their feathers knot and tangle. They begin to become indistinguishable from one another, and then finally it's impossible to tell where one bit ends and the next begins. Their movement has woven them together, glued wing on wing by their own white paste. They're smashed up in the jar in bleached patterns. Eve waits till their motion has ceased altogether, and then she reaches one hand down into the jar, pulls out the contents, which, to her delight, had been woven into one large, pasty bird shawl. She releases the bed sheets from her grip and wraps the shawl about her shoulders. Ah, the room fills with the smell of dead sparrows. You know, entering the realm of fiction is so great because you can make those little fictional characters do whatever you want them to do. You know, and you can make them do things that, so that you don't have to do them. Thank you, Eve. Thank you. Thank you for doing all those things so I didn't have to. And thank you to my daughter, because my love for her kept me from becoming Eve. Really. Oh man. Wow. I love this book. Man, I might just nibble on this book. It's delicious. I love Eve is so naughty. Like she's so mean to those birds. Excuse me. Those birds are metaphors, okay? You illicit fool. Aren't words just like so inadequate? You're constantly trying to like shove your ideas and your feelings into these little straitjackets of words, these little cages of words, and it never works. You never find the right word and everything, especially those precious words that you've chosen so carefully to put in your avant-garde novel or your like poem. You know, those precious, or you work really hard on just the right words for like that meaningful conversation and everything. And, you know, I'm somebody who devoted their life to words. I mean, just my journal is 24,000 pages. And yet, somehow I really prefer thinking without words. That's all the stuff that's here behind me. Like as far back as I can remember being in the womb and drawing the shape of my thoughts on the inside of the amniotic sac. It's so much better to think without words, without trying to translate your thoughts into words, to just see the shapes of the thoughts, the visual shapes of them moving around, like just watching clouds up in the sky. I go, oh, look, this thought is actually related to this thought. Oh, look, they're joining. Oh, wait, this part of the thought, I don't really believe it anymore. So it flies away and you're not, you save so much time when you're not trying to translate everything into words, you know. So what I do is like, ever since I can remember, I've made these drawings of my thought when they're in these visual shapes. And like, so up here, like if the thought's moving really quickly, you just make little boxes, and like these thoughts are like, you can watch the thought in each box as it changes over like 1 minute intervals, you know, or slower, like you can make little windows and go, oh, I wonder what shapes of my thoughts will pass by this window. Or like here, I just was like drawing how the thoughts were changing, and then here I just took a photograph of what was actually there in the real world, you know, like a plant and stuff, and then over here I was like, let me just try to translate some of these thoughts into words and then back into the thoughts, you know, or if the thoughts are like moving more slowly, you can make a bigger drawing, you know, like thoughts about my father. You know, it's big, it's complex. Sometimes I would translate them. You know, I have the thought, and, you know, as I was drawing the thoughts, sometimes like I need to put like hair and bones and stuff in them. And so the book that I'm writing now, which is, doesn't really fit any category. We'll call it a memoir. Oh God, like half of it's visual, but whatever. The working title is Screaming for God, Our Human Comedy. Yeah, Shawl would like that, wouldn't he? Yeah. And so this is actually, this one, I guess, is the first, might be the first page in the book. Yeah, you're saying like, how do you get this three-dimensional thing in your book? Isn't it a little awkward? Well, you know, I take photographs of them and they go in the book, but we just don't need to be limited by trying to put everything into words. You can think so much faster if you're not trying to say, this is, you know, your language, it's much better when you're not trying to translate them, you know. And one of the things that really helps me focus is, over the years I've made these things that, don't you just sometimes feel like I can't focus today? Well, I wanted to share this with you. It really helps you get into hidden hidden realms. I call them portable monk's cells, and it's like, don't you just want to be in a monastery sometime in a quiet monk cell, you know, where you can focus and everything. So I've made thousands of these over the years. You need to start with a cap or a hat that has like a brim, because you want to be able to hang a curtain from the brim, you know, so you can get inside the monk cell. And it needs to be portable, because like, I don't go anywhere without this, because you never know when you're going to want to focus and see things more clearly. This is an old shirt of mine. Let's see if I can just show you how this works, because I think you're going to probably want to buy one of these on I sell them on monkscell.com. This one I made from, obviously from a Wellfleet Oysters cap. And I like to have it just kind of temporarily taped on, because, you know, what if your granddaughter's like, Nana, where's that Wellfleet oyster hat I bought you? You know, and you're just like, you can rip off the monk cell and just be like, oh, right here, honey. And then you, it's good to have some nice wraparound dark glasses. You know, and if need be, like if you're at an artist colony and you can't focus and everything, you might want to put like some cotton in your ears and stuff, but you know, you want the dark glasses. And then you want to like just wrap the cell around. I swear to God, this like really works. You know, and you just leave, clothespins are good. You just leave a little place, because you want to be able to breathe. You know, just leave a little hole for your nose. God, I'm already starting to focus. So much better. You know, my kids got so used to me wearing these that like they would come into like my study and I'd have one on and they'd just be like, ignore me. Like I was just, you know, whatever. And they'd be like, Mom, can we order a pizza? And I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. But yeah. You can go right into our hidden region of your truest self with one of these. If anyone wants to borrow this one, yeah, I'm happy to lend it out, or I can make you one. So the last thing that I wanted to share with you was the realm of visions, my fave. Visions that you have, like when you're sleeping, or it could be a vision that you have during the day, you know, something just appears to you. It could be you're just lying on the beach, you know, in the hot sun, and you just have a vision of something. Visions are an extremely important region. All the main things I've done in my life have come from visions that I had, and maybe the most important one was, it was a dream vision. I was asleep, and my son, Alex, who I hadn't met yet, came to me in the dream vision. He was 2, almost 2. And he came to me and he started yelling at me and he was like, Mom, I'm over here in Romania waiting for 2 years for you to come and adopt me. And when are you going to come? It was so crystal clear. I saw him exactly. And I was like, I didn't hear you calling me before. You know, I'll come right away. And I did. I followed that vision, and you know, it's a long story. It's in my book, yeah. But, you know, so I followed that vision, and I went to Romania, and I found him, and he looked exactly, of course, like he did in the dream vision. And he also happened to look exactly like my daughter, who was my birth daughter. And so I adopted him, or like one time I had this vision that I was supposed to go on a pilgrimage to across from like Yugoslavia all the way across Europe to like Portugal, and it was supposed to be a pilgrimage with my 10-year-old daughter, and we were supposed to go to all these places where the Virgin Mary had appeared to little children. Now, if you get how like outrageous this vision was for a Presbyterian minister's daughter, because like the Virgin Mary, we kind of laugh at her, and we're kind of like, no, we believe in the all-male Trinity. You know, Father, Son, and Holy. Like, Mary is just like iffy, you know. So when I told all the Presbyterians, you know, that they were horrified, and I was like, I had a vision, we've got to go, you know, and we have to be beggars, and my mom's like, couldn't I buy you like a Eurail pass? Take my credit cards. I'm like, no, we have to be beggars. So we went for 10 weeks. We started where she was appearing in Medjugorje, you know, in Yugoslavia, and ended up in Fatima, you know, in Portugal. We had no itinerary, no money, no plan. We spoke no languages in any country we went to, and it was miraculous. Completely and totally miraculous. So I really recommend that. Is my favorite of all the hidden, like, all the hidden, I will not come in there, ostrich. Like, oh my God, I don't think it's an ostrich, it's an emu. Anyway, so I just want to celebrate all of the hidden regions in you, and I'd like to end with the last 3 words of the Wasteland. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So make sure that you get a handout tomorrow.